This is Manufacturing Revival Radio, coming to you live from FABTECH 2016 at McCormick Place in Chicago, Illinois. This special edition is brought to you by Definity Partners, dedicated to developing people and driving improvement through operations optimization, technology solutions, and education. And now, on with the discussion.
Welcome back. This is Manufacturing Revival Radio coming to you live from FABTECH 2015 at McCormick Place in Chicago, Illinois. The education here continues. The exhibits more, bigger, more interesting, new stuff than I've seen. And I've been coming to these shows for a lot of years. I see my guest over there nodding, the same kind of thing. Really, really terrific show. And as I've mentioned a few times before today, the level of guests and the interesting things they're doing is absolutely fascinating. And our next guest is no exception. Please welcome Lauri Klaus. She's CEO of KeyedIn Solutions. Lauri, thanks for stopping by.
Absolutely. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Just to get us kicked off here, Lauri, tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, I'd love to. I've been in the manufacturing industry, supporting it from a technology standpoint for about 24 years. I used to round up. I don't round up anymore. So I'm going to stick with 24 years.
Yeah. I say over 30.
Over 30?
That's my deal.
No, I'm stopping at 24. Anyway, spent 22 years with a company called Epicor Software, created on-premise ERP solutions. I started out as a consultant implementing over 100 ERP solutions as an account manager.
Wow.
And just really happy to be here.
Glutton for punishment. Over 100?
Over 100 across a long period of time.
Right.
But ended my career with Epicor running global sales and consulting. We were running about 300 projects a quarter. So very passionate about technology and about ERP in particular, and especially about where the new technology is leading us.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing you're passionate about KeyedIn Solutions as well.
Very
Which
passionate.
Obviously is ERP, but tell us a little bit about the company. Give us a quick overview.
Sure. So after we sold Epicor Software to a private equity firm for just under $1 billion, that was about 5.5 years ago, my husband and I founded KeyedIn Solutions to focus 100% on cloud computing. It was very evident to us that that's where the industry was moving with the Internet of Things and manufacturing 4.0 and all these new concepts and expanding the automation and digitization of manufacturing companies. We thought that it needed to be written products native for cloud computing, which can be expanded and taken in many different directions.
I don't want to sound like a wise guy, but I hear all these Internet of Things and manufacturing 4.0. It strikes me a little bit like hypey jargon kinds of stuff, and yet I know that some of the technological advancements underneath it, I mean, there's some real stuff underneath it. Talk a little bit about that. What are some of the issues that we flat couldn't address before that we can now because of some of these technological advances?
Absolutely. A couple things. I'll talk about a couple things specifically in terms of feature function. As an example, MRP, running MRP. In the past, to run MRP, which as you know, is looking at a lot of different data points, right? Your materials, your work orders, all of that, and trying to pull it together and help you decide what you need to buy, when and where, and what you need to make based on demand and supply. It's a very complicated calculation. And to give you a very specific example, because we're in the cloud, the computing power can scale immediately to what you need. So you don't have to go buy a server to speed up reports or speed up certain processes like MRP. MRP you can run in 3 minutes in our solution. And remember,
that blows my mind.
Do you remember the days when you had to go in Friday night and hit the button, and then Monday morning, hopefully it didn't crash?
And hope nothing crashed on the disk drive,
So it's and there are just hundreds of examples like that. Beyond that, it's the ability to connect to other cloud solutions and take advantage of cloud services that are becoming available. Microsoft Azure, we use that, for cloud computing power, performance issues, accessibility. Because we're in the public cloud, when we work with a company, it's a $7 billion public cloud company called Dimension Data, we also provide private cloud solutions. So if you're targeting government agencies or a highly regulated industry, we can offer private cloud as well.
How big a deal is security? And I let me make sure I articulate what I'm trying to get at. There are a lot of folks still that'll say, oh, I'm not going to use the cloud at all because it's out there and I'm going to be exposed, which is, in my view, almost silly. Just reassure people that are nervous about the cloud that security is an issue, it's important, but it's handled.
Absolutely comes up every single time in every conversation. Yeah. I would have been disappointed if you didn't ask me that question. Security is in the public cloud because that's all they do, the cloud provider. And the cloud provider could be, we're using Dimension Data, it could be Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Azure, many different cloud providers. But that's all they do is protect your data and make sure that you can access it and make sure that your data is secure and only accessible from, and by you. If you look at where I would say companies should really consider the security issue is that if you're writing products that are native for cloud computing and you understand what those security issues might be, you have the opportunity to write those, whether it's ERP or MES or whatever this cloud solution is, specifically to overcome any security issues. Where I see some security potential issues in the cloud is when companies are taking old technology, on-premise solutions, and just putting them in the cloud in mainly a hosted situation. Mm-hmm. You're going to have more security issues because the product wasn't written to avoid security issues. And that's where the native cloud solutions really has a significant difference.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'll
go ahead. As long as they're good.
Ahead of time. No, I just want to verify it. I think you just implied that having an on-premise solution is probably less secure than a native cloud-based solution. Is that
it? Well, two things. One is in its current state, on-premise, we believe is much less secure. Having a server in the back office, multiple servers, you're dependent on 2 or 3 maybe people to protect that security.
And the janitor might literally kick the plug out.
Or there might be a fire or damage or lots of different things. So you don't keep your banking data at home. Right. You make sure your bank is keeping track of that information and you access it via the cloud.
Right.
So that's where businesses are moving as well.
You touched a little bit on systems integration earlier, and that, in my mind, has always been maybe the single. Okay, that's a more appropriate way to put it. I mean, it's hard.
It's really hard.
Difficult, especially when you're across
multiple
technologies and a long supply. Much as we try to shorten the supply chain, it stubbornly gets a little bit longer than it was. So, I mean, how do you deal with that? How do you help your clients deal with all of this myriad of integration issues?
Well, there's, first of all, no simple answer to that. It's going to take time because everyone's got incumbent products and no one's going to be able to completely embrace the cloud overnight, and we all know that and acknowledge that. So the question is how can you integrate new cloud services and new cloud offerings with some of your current incumbent offerings? Mm-hmm. One of the things that we have full APIs, application program interfaces, and that's really through web services, but it's a wide open scenario so you can integrate very easily with other products. Ultimately, having a native cloud solution with full APIs, meaning the whole application is open for integration, moving to the Internet of Things and being able to take advantage of communicating with your machines, to your ERP, your MES potentially, and they're talking more about having that visibility into your whole organization will allow you to sell more things in the areas of services and other offerings. You have that information to now push to your customers, your suppliers, your employees. So integration, yes. I mean, at Epicor, we integrated 17 different products 15 years ago. Lots of pain points, inaccurate data, all those kinds of things. Yeah. This type of integration is a real-time, can't ever promise anything with the incumbent products, but it's getting a lot easier.
Talk a little bit about your consulting offerings, and I'm assuming you have those, because if I'm a CIO, let's say I absolutely love the KeyedIn ERP solution, but I do have to integrate it with all kinds of other things and make sure it's working. Do you help me do that? I mean, you have the APIs. Is there a consulting service on top of that?
Absolutely, yes. We've got talk a little bit about that. Sure. Good question. So we've got a global team. Okay, we're in the U.S. as well as in the U.K. and Sweden so far, and we're looking at APAC as well. Mm-hmm. Our consulting organization, we really focus on implementing and integrating with our products specifically, or and or with our customers' incumbent products. We're not in the business consulting, ERP rescue, other types of consulting. We really focus only on implementing and supporting the implementation of our products.
Talk a little bit about the future, and I'm not asking you necessarily if you want to divulge.
Are you on my board of directors?
Yeah. Talk in terms of, in your product development effort, you're looking out at what are the key issues that your customer base is wrestling with, to which there is no solution right now.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the issues anyway, not the product itself, because I know you won't.
Yeah. Well, the issues are being prepared for the next level of technology, being not just a competitive advantage in technology, but a competitive requirement to be highly involved in the, again, I hate to say this again, Internet of Things, but it really is a movement that people need to pay attention to. Flexibility, scalability, accessibility, mobile, being able to run, move materials from your iPad, do an estimate and provide a quote from your booth at FABTECH, all of those things will be, and again, hundreds of examples of why technology can make companies more competitive. Those are the things that we're looking at and looking for, more innovative ways to use the technology, not just a Me Too, not just a, quote to shipment. We're looking at ways to provide great technology tools to help discrete manufacturing companies be more competitive. We have our own platform as a service. We're independent. So basically, we can develop applications very, very quickly. And 75-80% of the development cycle is done because we have our own platform. Mm-hmm. We're unique in that in our ERP, it's extensible. So people can add things to it. They can change it. And that is very unique in the cloud environment. The fact that they can actually change it and be creative with how they're implementing ERP.
I know I'm jumping around at you,
That's
but there's
great.
so many topics you've got to get to. Investment in an ERP system is, shall we say, non-trivial. I've got to have my business processes straight. I got to know what they are. I got to know what I want them to be and where they're headed, et cetera, et cetera. So justifying financially a decision to implement KeyedIn or any ERP system in general is tough to do. Talk a little bit about how you help your customers work through the economic justification to implement an ERP system.
Well, that's a really easy question to answer. It really is. Because I spent a couple decades in the on-premise world. It was always a capital expenditure.
Right.
It was 6 to 12 month evaluation cycles, which are, expensive, opportunity cost.
I remember them well.
Yes, I'm sure you do. And, you had to write a check for $1 million to get started. And in our environment, we're sold software as a service. Mm-hmm. It's a monthly fee. It's all in. The infrastructure, the only thing that isn't in is your consulting, mm-hmm. which makes sense. But your support, your maintenance, all of that is in your monthly fee. You can start small. You can start, with 2 users and get into estimating. And it's a monthly fee. It's a monthly operating expense. So the whole evaluation cycle, not to underestimate the impact that ultimately the ERP, but you can have much more quick wins mm-hmm. and build the confidence. Because user acceptance is one of the toughest things.
Yeah.
And,
I've been doing it this way for 20 years. Yeah.
And if you can start to plant seeds in your organization and get some excitement around, wow, look at what I can do on my smart device, and I can check the workload from the beach and different things like that, user acceptance just becomes natural. So there is an evaluation cycle, no doubt about it, but the advantage is getting started with native in the cloud will prepare the companies for the long-term movement to the cloud.
We're getting a little short on time, but I do want to pick your brain a little bit about disaster recovery. What happens when the lights go out?
Well, that's the beauty of this. Disaster recovery is part of the whole cloud service. So all that's taken care of for the companies, and there's been 0% downtime. We applied an upgrade about 3 weeks ago. We have 70,000 resources that we're managing, and it took 2 hours to apply the upgrade, no impact to any client. They got the upgrade immediately. We didn't get a single support call.
That's kudos.
I'm not lying.
Kudos.
I promise. It's a great environment to be in, I got to tell you.
I'm sure you have the data to back that up.
Absolutely we do. So in fact, we had a custom sign manufacturer in, I think it was Joplin, Missouri, when they had, remember the disaster?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right? And everything was just wiped out, especially their servers, everything. Right. And this is a very true story. I can give you his name too. He was doing his work from home until they recovered. They had complete access to their systems, no issues, even though all of their hardware in their company, in their four walls, was done. So it's disaster recovery. This is a good area to be protected from any disasters.
It's taken me a long time to come to accept someone making the statement of 0% downtime. But it's real. It really
it is. I remember asking for a bug-free release, and everybody looked at me.
What has she been drinking?
That doesn't exist, and it actually does exist in this environment.
Undocumented features.
Yeah, there you go. You're right.
Gosh, Lauri, I hate to say it. I got 25 more questions I'd love to kick around with you, but we're out of time here. I want to make sure that people know how to get a hold of you, how to get some more information, and where they can find you here at FABTECH.
Okay, fantastic. Again, appreciate that you had me on today. We are at booth S2186 here at FABTECH. I think the first time I came to FABTECH 20 plus years ago, I didn't know the difference between a welding helmet and a snowmobile helmet. So it's been great. This is a great show for us. But again, at booth S2186, and we're at KeyedIn.com.
Outstanding. Lauri Klaus, CEO of KeyedIn Solutions. Thanks for taking the time and sharing some of your insights.
Absolutely. Thank you, Todd.
That wraps this episode. On behalf of my guest, Lauri Klaus, I'm Todd Youngblood, Manufacturing Revival Radio, live from FABTECH 2015. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.